Kieran's shuttle cut through the endless black of space, its engines humming softly as it approached Nova Prime. The planet below shimmered like a jewel, its cities glowing with 1,000 lights, and massive spires of the Interstellar Academy casting long shadows over the sprawling landscapes. He had been dreaming about this moment for years, but now that it was here, a mixture of excitement and nerves churned inside him. He glanced at the navigation panel. The landing pad was busy. As usual, elite cadets from all over the galaxy arrived here every year, each carrying their own hopes and reputations. And yet, Kieran was different. He was the first human ever admitted to the Valkyrie class, the Academy's most dangerous and elite class. A group of girls known for their incredible skills, intelligence, and unmatched competitiveness. Every story he had heard painted them as formidable, nearly untouchable, and often ruthless in training. And he, a human boy barely 16, was about to walk into their world. As the shuttle descended, Kieran checked his uniform, making sure everything was neat. The standard Academy suit was designed for adaptability, reinforced with energy-resistant fibers and sensors to monitor health and performance. Though it fit perfectly, he felt out of place. Everywhere he looked, cadets with streamlined suits and confident stances seemed to glide through the air as naturally as birds. He drew in a deep breath, trying to steady his heartbeat. The shuttle touched down with a soft thrum. The doors opened, and the hiss of pressurized air greeted him. Kieran stepped out, the soles of his boots making solid contact with the metal surface of the landing pad. He scanned the crowd. Cadets moved in clusters, chatting, practicing combat moves, or checking their equipment. There were alien species of all shapes and sizes, some with multiple limbs, some with luminous skin, and others with wings or tail-like appendages. They all seemed confident, powerful, and completely aware of their place in the Academy hierarchy. Then he saw them. The Valkyrie-class cadets. They stood in a group on the far side of the courtyard, their posture perfect, their expressions unreadable. Each of them seemed to radiate intensity. One of them, a girl with silver hair that gleamed under the sun and piercing violet eyes, noticed him immediately. She was tall, athletic, and carried herself with the kind of authority that made the crowd part naturally around her. Kieran felt a small shiver. That must be Seraphine, he thought. She was the leader, the one everyone whispered about. She had a reputation for being sharp, precise, and completely uncompromising. Kieran squared his shoulders and walked toward them, smiling. Not nervously, not timidly, just a simple, honest smile. It felt strange. In stories he had heard, humans were often underestimated or dismissed by the galaxy's elite, yet he couldn't help it. Smiling was part of who he was, a small shield against the tension of the unknown. As he approached, the whispers began. "It's a human boy," someone murmured. "Does he really think he can handle this class?" Another voice scoffed. "He'll be gone before the week is over." Kieran ignored them. He kept walking, head held high, until he was a few meters from the group. Seraphine's eyes never left him. She tilted her head slightly, as if trying to read his mind. Kieran returned her gaze without hesitation. Most people might have flinched under her scrutiny, but he held steady. Finally, Seraphine spoke, her voice calm, even, but with a hint of challenge. "You must be the human," she said. "I've been expecting curiosity or fear. But a smile? Interesting." Kieran shrugged lightly. "I guess I like to see things positively. Makes life easier." For a brief moment, the tension cracked. A few cadets raised their eyebrows, surprised by his audacity. Others murmured among themselves, unsure how to react. Seraphine didn't speak immediately. She just studied him, the kind of intense gaze that felt like it could measure everything about him in seconds. Finally, she said, "Curiosity and positivity are interesting traits, but do you really think they will be enough here?" Kieran nodded confidently. "I don't know yet. But I do know I'm willing to try." There was silence for a few moments. Then, unexpectedly, Seraphine's expression softened just a fraction. She turned to the other girls and said, "He stays. For now. But remember, everyone, the Valkyrie class does not wait for anyone. You either adapt, or you fall behind." The other cadets murmured again, some with disbelief, some with intrigue. Kieran felt his chest tighten. He had made it past the first test simply being accepted. But he knew the real challenge had only just begun. The group moved toward the Academy's central training grounds, a massive arena suspended above the city by anti-gravity fields. Kieran followed, observing everything around him. The Valkyrie girls moved with precision and grace, their steps coordinated, their attention sharp. It was clear they had trained for years to reach this level. Kieran's heart pounded, but he reminded himself that humans had strengths too: adaptability, creativity, and determination. The first trial began shortly after their arrival. It was a basic agility and combat test, designed to assess reflexes, coordination, and strategic thinking. Each cadet would navigate a series of obstacles while completing a target exercise. The walls shifted, platforms rose and fell, and holographic enemies appeared unpredictably. Kieran stepped onto the starting pad, taking a deep breath. His body felt lighter than usual, his senses alert. As the test began, the other cadets shot forward like arrows. Kieran ran, jumped, and dodged as best as he could, but it quickly became clear that he was slower. A rotating platform sent him stumbling, and he nearly collided with a wall. Instead of panicking, he paused for a fraction of a second and noticed a small gap between the moving platforms. Most cadets would have followed the predictable path. Kieran leapt sideways, landing on a less obvious platform. His movement was unconventional, unrefined, and risky, but it worked. He continued through the course, improvising with every obstacle, relying on instinct and quick thinking rather than sheer power or speed. By the time he reached the final target, the other cadets were already waiting, some with frustrated expressions, others with impressed looks. Kieran smiled, panting lightly, and aimed carefully. He hit the bullseye on his first attempt. There was a pause. Then, unexpectedly, Seraphine clapped her hands once. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a single sharp clap that carried across the arena. "Well," she said, "that was unconventional, but effective." The girls exchanged glances. Some seemed annoyed that a human had managed something they hadn't expected. Others whispered quietly, trying to figure him out. Kieran stood tall, brushing dust from his uniform, his smile unwavering. He had survived the first test, and had even impressed the leader. After the trial, the cadets moved toward the Academy's dining hall. Kieran observed the interactions around him. The Valkyrie girls were competitive, but they also had camaraderie, subtle and precise, built on years of shared experience. He knew it would take time to earn a place among them. At the table, he sat next to a girl named Lyra, a quick-witted cadet with emerald green eyes. She raised an eyebrow at him. "You're not afraid?" she asked. Kieran shrugged. "Why should I be? I came here to learn, not to worry about fear." Lyra laughed softly. "You're bold, human. That's unusual." Kieran smiled again. "I guess that's one way to put it." As they ate, Seraphine observed from across the hall, her expression unreadable. But Kieran could feel her attention, a silent acknowledgement that he was more than just a novelty. The day ended with a briefing from the Academy's headmaster, an imposing figure with eyes that seemed to see everything. He outlined the challenges that awaited the cadets: advanced combat simulations, interstellar strategy exercises, and high-risk training missions. Kieran listened carefully, absorbing every word. He knew he had a lot to prove. The Valkyrie class was not just elite, it was legendary. Every cadet who succeeded here would go on to influence the galaxy in ways he could only imagine. And Kieran wanted to be part of that legacy, not just as a human among aliens, but as someone who could show that humans had something unique to offer. As night fell over Nova Prime, the city lights reflecting off the clouds below, Kieran stood on the balcony of his dormitory. He looked up at the stars, letting the quiet of space settle around him. Tomorrow, the real training would begin. And he would face it with the same smile he had worn all day. Because if there was one thing he knew about humans, it was that they never gave up, and they never stopped trying. And Kieran was ready to prove that. No matter how dangerous the Valkyrie class, a human boy could not only survive, but thrive. The next morning, the sun rose over Nova Prime, spilling golden light across the Academy's towers. Kieran stood at the edge of the training grounds, stretching lightly, his eyes scanning the field. Today would be different. Today, he would face his first true trial with the Valkyrie class. The instructor, a stern alien named Commander Valar, approached. His skin was a deep shade of blue, and his eyes glowed faintly, a sign of his heightened perception. He addressed the class in a voice that carried authority and weight. "Today," he said, "you will undergo the agility and strategy simulations. Each of you will face obstacles designed to challenge your body, your mind, and your ability to work with others. Remember, efficiency, precision, and adaptability are your keys to success." The Valkyrie girls nodded as one. Kieran felt a flicker of nervousness, but reminded himself to stay calm. He was still the human among legends, but he had something they didn't: human creativity. The first simulation began. A series of floating platforms hovered above a deep chasm, each platform shifting unpredictably. Holographic opponents appeared randomly, forcing cadets to react quickly. Kieran stepped forward, watching the patterns of movement. The girls darted and leaped with precision, but Kieran noticed that their focus on perfection sometimes slowed their reactions when unexpected changes occurred. He decided to take a different approach. Instead of following the path the others would take, he leapt sideways, dodged through unexpected gaps, and used his environment in ways that were unconventional. A spinning barrier came toward him, and instead of jumping over it like the others, he ducked and rolled beneath, landing softly on the next platform. A few of the girls glanced at him with surprise. Lyra, sitting on a nearby observation platform, whispered to a friend, "He's different. Not just fast, but unpredictable." By the end of the course, Kieran had finished just behind Seraphine, who had moved with flawless precision. The others were fast, but none had matched his unconventional style. Commander Valar's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Interesting," he muttered under his breath. "Human resilience and ingenuity. Perhaps there is value here." After the agility trial, the cadets were immediately moved to the combat simulations. Holographic drones filled the arena, moving quickly and attacking from multiple directions. Each cadet had to neutralize as many drones as possible while maintaining situational awareness. Kieran gripped his energy blaster, remembering the tips he had studied before arriving. He didn't have the years of training the Valkyries had, but he had something else. A mind that could see possibilities others might miss. The other girls moved with precision, firing and dodging in patterns drilled into them over years. Kieran hesitated at first, letting the drones approach. Then, with careful timing, he fired not at individual drones but at their energy sources, causing chain reactions that took out multiple drones at once. The tactic was unconventional, risky, and dangerous if mistimed, but it worked. A murmur ran through the observation platform. Seraphine's eyes narrowed slightly. She hadn't expected this. Kieran's improvisation had given him an edge she had not seen coming. As the simulation ended, Commander Valar raised his voice. "Remarkable. Efficiency is not always about perfection. Adaptability and creativity have their place. The human cadet demonstrates this clearly." The Valkyrie girls exchanged glances. Some were annoyed. Their pride had been challenged by a human. Others were curious, watching Kieran with new interest. After the exercises, Kieran joined the group for a break. The cadets sat on floating benches, cooling down and hydrating. Lyra leaned closer. "You surprised everyone today," she said, "including me. I thought you'd struggle, but you handled yourself well." Kieran shrugged, a modest smile on his face. I've never been one to follow the obvious path. It's about thinking ahead, noticing details, and sometimes taking a risk. That's how humans do things. Lyra laughed softly. Humans? Huh? I suppose that explains your strange optimism. Kieran smiled. Optimism is useful. Fear slows you down, but a smile can keep your mind sharp. As they rested, Seraphine approached. She moved with the quiet confidence of a predator, her violet eyes fixed on Kieran. You are unusual, she said quietly. Not weak, not clumsy, and not afraid. You see things differently than the others. That could be an asset or a liability. Kieran met her gaze evenly. I hope it's an asset. She studied him for a moment, then nodded once. We shall see. The next part of the day involved team exercises, where cadets were paired to complete complex strategic challenges. Kieran was assigned to a group with Seraphine, Lyra, and another cadet named Tessa, a tall girl with copper-colored hair and a serious expression. The challenge was to capture a control point while avoiding simulated attacks from drones and rival cadets. At first, the girls assumed command naturally, directing movements, coordinating attacks, and assigning roles. Kieran observed quietly. He noticed small patterns, gaps in the drone's patrol routes, the timing of their attacks, and the predictable reactions of the others. When the exercise began, Kieran suggested a different approach. Instead of charging straight at the point, he said, let's use the drone's movements against us. I'll create a distraction on the left side, and you three move in from the right while they're occupied. Seraphine raised an eyebrow but allowed it. Kieran executed his plan with precision. He sprinted toward the drones, dodging attacks and firing carefully to draw them away. Meanwhile, the girls moved toward the control point, taking it with minimal resistance. When the simulation ended, Commander Valar's voice echoed through the arena. Exceptional work. Strategy, coordination, and adaptability all played a role. Cadet Kieran, your approach was unconventional but effective. Cadet Seraphine, excellent execution. Teamwork, as always, is the key to victory. The Valkyrie girls looked at Kieran differently now. The whispers had changed from disbelief to curiosity. Some even smiled at him, though reluctantly. Kieran, ever cheerful, returned their smiles with warmth. The day ended with a debriefing in the Academy's strategy hall. Holographic displays showed each cadet's performance in detail. Commander Valar analyzed their movements, noting patterns, strengths, and weaknesses. Kieran, he said finally, you may be human, but you have a quality that many of our best cadets lack: unpredictability. Use it wisely. Learn from others, yes, but do not let their methods confine you. That is the way humans have survived and thrived, even in a galaxy that doubted them. Kieran nodded, feeling a surge of pride. He had faced his first full day among the Valkyrie class, and had not only survived but made an impression. Later, in the dormitory, Kieran unpacked his things, taking a moment to reflect. He thought about the agility course, the combat simulation, and the team exercises. Every step had been a challenge, every decision a test, but he had adapted, improvised, and proven something to himself and perhaps to the entire academy. Lyra knocked lightly on his door. You're not done yet, she said, stepping inside. There's a lot more training to come. But you handled yourself well today. Most new cadets would have faltered. Kieran grinned. Thanks. I just try to keep an open mind. That helps in tight situations. Lyra laughed. An open mind, huh? And that smile of yours, it's dangerous. I can see it now. You might survive the Valkyrie class. After all, Kieran chuckled. Survive, maybe. Thrive. That's the goal. As night fell over Nova Prime, the Academy's lights twinkled like stars. Kieran lay in bed, thinking about the days ahead. The Valkyrie class was challenging, competitive, and intimidating. Every cadet here was extraordinary, but he knew that humans had a unique advantage: adaptability, creativity, and the courage to face the unknown with optimism. and Kieran had all three. He closed his eyes with a smile, ready for the next day, ready for the next trial, and ready to show the galaxy that even a human boy could hold his own among the most dangerous cadets in the universe. The next morning, Kieran woke to the sound of the alarm, a soft hum that pulsed through the dormitory. Today promised to be unlike any other. Commander Valar had warned the cadets that the next exercise would test not just physical skills, but strategy, teamwork, and quick thinking under pressure. Kieran stretched, feeling the familiar tingle of anticipation in his chest. He was ready. The training grounds were already alive with activity. Holographic projections floated above the field, showing the layout of the day's challenge. A simulated hostile environment on a distant, unstable planet. The goal was to secure multiple control points while neutralizing robotic drones and avoiding environmental hazards. Unlike previous exercises, this one emphasized improvisation and adaptability. Every cadet would need to think fast or risk failure. As Kieran joined the Valkyrie class, he noticed the intensity on the girls' faces. Seraphine's violet eyes seemed sharper than ever, calculating, analyzing. Lyra and Tessa were focused, discussing strategies in low voices. Kieran felt a rush of excitement. This was the moment where his human traits, creativity, courage, and unconventional thinking could shine. The exercise began. The ground beneath them shifted constantly, simulating earthquakes, collapsing platforms, and erupting geysers. Robotic drones patrolled the area, scanning for movement with sensors so precise that even a misstep could trigger an alarm. The Valkyrie girls sprang into action with practiced precision, executing complex maneuvers and coordinated strikes. Kieran followed, observing carefully before making his move. Soon, the first obstacle appeared. A massive chasm, with platforms floating above it, moving in unpredictable patterns. The other cadets jumped with exact timing. Landing safely, Kieran paused, assessing the situation. He noticed that the drones were programmed to follow predictable patterns when cadets leapt between platforms. Using this observation, he adjusted his approach. Instead of leaping like the others, he swung across with a grappling hook, landing silently behind a drone. With a quick shot, he disabled it before it could alert the others. The girls noticed. Lyra whispered, "He's thinking differently again. That human boy." As Kieran advanced, a geyser erupted near Tessa, sending her stumbling backward. Kieran sprinted forward without hesitation, grabbing her hand and pulling her to safety. Tessa's eyes widened, not with fear, but with surprise. For the first time, she saw that his presence could be an asset, not a liability. Seraphine's eyes narrowed. She had observed Kieran's movements carefully. His approach was unorthodox, but it worked. Unlike the cadets trained for years to follow strict patterns, Kieran adapted in real time, turning the unpredictable environment to his advantage. The exercise became more complex. Multiple control points needed to be secured simultaneously, with drones patrolling between them. The Valkyrie girls split into teams, communicating silently through hand signals and subtle movements. Kieran noticed that coordination was strong, but it was rigid. Any sudden change could disrupt their strategy. He saw an opportunity. He signaled to the girls, pointing toward a weak spot in the drone patrol. "If we move through here first, we can secure the central control point while they're distracted," he suggested. Seraphine glanced at him, her eyes narrowing, weighing the risk. Finally, she nodded once. "Do it," she said. Kieran dashed ahead, drawing the drone's attention while the girls moved toward the central control point. The plan worked, but not perfectly. One of the drones detected Kieran and fired a warning shot, sending him tumbling into a shallow crater. He quickly rolled to his feet, dusting himself off, and fired at the drone, taking it down just as Seraphine's team reached the control point. The instructor's voice echoed across the simulation. "Unexpected variables detected. Human adaptability is proving effective." Kieran felt a surge of pride. His human instincts, his creativity, and his fearlessness were paying off. But the challenge was far from over. Suddenly, the simulation intensified. The ground beneath them began to shake violently, and drones multiplied in number. Energy barriers appeared, blocking straightforward paths to the remaining control points. The Valkyrie girls began to show signs of strain. Even Seraphine's movements, precise as they were, seemed momentarily constrained by the increasing chaos. Kieran realized that brute force or speed would no longer be enough. He needed a new approach. He scanned the environment and noticed a pattern in the drone's movements. They reacted to sound and light in specific ways. Smiling, Kieran quickly set up a series of reflective panels and a small holographic projector, creating illusions that drew the drones away from the girls. He then led them along hidden paths, avoiding both drones and environmental hazards. Lyra, impressed, whispered, "He's doing it again. He's making his own path." Tessa nodded, her earlier skepticism replaced with admiration. Even Seraphine's sharp gaze betrayed a hint of respect, though she said nothing. The final challenge appeared, a massive energy shield blocking the last control point. It pulsed with high-intensity energy, fluctuating in a pattern too fast for conventional attacks. Kieran studied it and realized that timing alone would not work. He needed to create a distraction to disrupt the shield temporarily. Quickly, he grabbed a spare energy charge from his pack and launched it at a nearby drone cluster. The explosion created a ripple effect, temporarily destabilizing the shield's energy flow. Seraphine and the girls seized the opportunity, moving in to capture the control point just as the shield flickered. The simulation ended. The Academy's holographic systems displayed the results. The Valkyrie class had succeeded in record time, securing all control points with minimal casualties. Commander Valar's voice resonated throughout the arena. Exceptional performance, adaptability, creativity, and teamwork combined to achieve success. Cadet Kieran, your unconventional strategies played a decisive role. You demonstrate the qualities that make humans remarkable: imagination, courage, and resilience. Well done. The Valkyrie girls gathered around Kieran. There was a shift in their demeanor. The whispers of doubt had vanished, replaced by curiosity and respect. Tessa clapped him on the shoulder, Lyra grinned, and even Seraphine's violet eyes held something new: acknowledgement. "You're not just a human boy," Seraphine said quietly. "You're a wild card. And wild cards can be valuable, if they learn to work with others." Kieran smiled, not arrogantly, but with genuine warmth. "I'm ready to learn. And I'm ready to help. That's what humans do." As they returned to the dormitory, Kieran felt a sense of accomplishment. Today had been more than a simulation. It had been a real test of his abilities, his instincts, and his ability to inspire others. He had not only survived the Valkyrie class's challenges but had contributed to their success in ways no one had expected. That evening, as Kieran prepared for rest, he received a quiet message from Seraphine. It simply read, "Meet me on the balcony at night." Curious, Kieran stepped out later, the cool wind brushing against his face. Seraphine was already there, gazing at the city lights below. "You surprised me today," she said without turning to face him. "You think differently, act differently, and yet you succeed. Humans, you are unpredictable, and that can be dangerous." Kieran chuckled softly. "I prefer to think of it as a strength. Being unpredictable keeps things interesting." Seraphine finally looked at him, her expression unreadable but thoughtful. "Keep that spirit. But remember, unpredictability alone is not enough. You must also learn discipline, control, and teamwork. The galaxy is unforgiving, and danger is never far away." "I understand," Kieran replied. "And I'm ready." For the first time, Seraphine's lips curved into a faint smile. "Good. You belong here. For now. Let's see how far you can go." Kieran felt a thrill of excitement. The day had been grueling, full of challenges that tested every part of him. But he had not just survived. He had proven that humans, even a single human boy, could make a difference among the most elite cadets in the galaxy. As he returned to his room, Kieran lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. He thought about the simulations, the shifting platforms, the drones, and the energy shields. Every obstacle had been a lesson, and every lesson had strengthened his resolve. He smiled to himself. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, perhaps even greater dangers, but he was ready. He was a human boy in the most dangerous girl class in the galaxy, and he had already shown that a smile, creativity, and courage could be more powerful than fear, strength, or tradition. And Kieran knew that this was only the beginning. The morning sun cast long shadows over Nova Prime, the city below sparkling as usual. Kieran stood on the balcony of the dormitory, taking a deep breath. Today was the day of the final trial for the Valkyrie class, a high-stakes exercise that would test everything the cadets had learned. Agility, combat skills, strategy, teamwork, and quick thinking under extreme conditions. This was the day that would define their place in the academy. As Kieran entered the training grounds, he could feel the tension in the air. The other cadets moved silently, their eyes focused, muscles coiled like springs. Seraphine stood at the front, her expression sharp, commanding attention without a word. Even in the midst of chaos and challenge, she exuded control. Kieran felt a thrill run through him. He had come a long way from the nervous human boy who had first arrived. But he knew this trial would push him further than ever before. Commander Valar's voice echoed across the field. Cadets, today's exercise is a full-scale simulation of an interstellar conflict. Rogue AI ships have breached the Academy's perimeter. Your mission: defend the Academy, neutralize threats, and secure all strategic points. Only through coordination, strategy, and adaptability will you succeed. Good luck. The cadets exchanged brief nods, then dispersed to their positions. Kieran scanned the environment quickly. The rogue AI ships were simulated, but their movements were aggressive and unpredictable. Drones swarmed the area, and energy barriers sprang up at random, creating a constantly shifting battlefield. The exercise began. Immediately, chaos erupted. The Valkyrie girls moved with precision, but Kieran noticed something familiar. Their movements, though perfect, were predictable. The AI seemed designed to exploit patterns and rigidity. Kieran grinned. Humans were never perfect. They adapted, improvised, and turned unpredictability into advantage. He sprinted forward, dodging drones and leaping over shifting barriers. Instead of following the same path as Seraphine, he took an alternate route, drawing the AI's attention away from the girls. A drone fired a warning shot, and Kieran rolled under its energy beam, returning fire to disable it. The AI shifted tactics, sending a group of drones toward the girls. Kieran acted immediately, setting off a small energy charge to create a distraction. The drones diverted, allowing Seraphine's team to advance. Lyra shouted across the battlefield, "You're at it again. You're unpredictable, human." But it works. Kieran smiled over the chaos. Sometimes, the unexpected is the best weapon, he replied, sprinting toward the next objective. The situation grew more dangerous. The AI began deploying energy barriers that pulsed with deadly intensity. Paths to strategic points were blocked, forcing cadets to find alternate routes. Kieran analyzed the environment quickly. He noticed a small gap in the energy flow near one of the barriers. Using a combination of timing, agility, and a small gadget he had designed, he disrupted the energy field temporarily, creating a safe path for the Valkyrie girls to move forward. Seraphine glanced at him mid-movement. Her violet eyes narrowed, but there was a glint of approval. Efficient, resourceful. That is why humans are unpredictable, she muttered, almost to herself. As the battle intensified, a massive AI ship descended toward the Academy, its weapon systems activating. The cadets needed to coordinate to neutralize it. The Valkyrie girls prepared their attacks, but Kieran quickly realized that a direct assault would be too risky. Using his human ingenuity, he devised a new plan. "Seraphine," he shouted, weaving through drones. "If we target the ship's sensor array from both sides, we can disable its weapons temporarily. I can lead a diversion on the left, while you and the others hit the right flank. Seraphine assessed the proposal, then nodded sharply. Do it. Human, lead the diversion. Kieran darted toward the left flank, drawing the AI's attention with a series of feints, jumps, and calculated blasts. The ship's weapons fired, but his unpredictable movements made it difficult to target him accurately. Meanwhile, Seraphine, Lyra, and Tessa attacked the right flank, disabling the sensor array just as Kieran's diversion reached its peak. The ship's systems overloaded, and it crashed safely into a simulation field, neutralized. Commander Valar's voice rang across the battlefield. Mission accomplished. Exceptional performance. Cadet Kieran, your strategy and quick thinking were instrumental. The Valkyrie class has surpassed expectations. The girls gathered around Kieran, their expressions a mix of admiration and relief. Even Seraphine, usually reserved and controlled, allowed herself a faint smile. You've done well, she said quietly. Your human creativity and courage have made a difference today. Remember, adaptability is just as valuable as skill. Kieran beamed. I'm glad I could help. We all did this together. Lyra clapped him on the shoulder. You're officially one of us now. I wasn't sure at first, but today, you earned it. Tessa nodded. I thought humans were fragile, predictable, or slow, but you proved otherwise. We'll need your unpredictability on the next mission. Kieran laughed softly. That's what humans are good at, turning the unexpected into opportunity. As the cadets walked back to the dormitories, the city of Nova Prime glimmered beneath them, lights reflecting off sleek towers. Kieran felt a sense of accomplishment, unlike anything before. He had faced impossible odds, dangerous simulations, and elite cadets, and he had proven that humans could adapt, survive, and even excel. That evening, the Academy held a formal debriefing. Commander Valar addressed the cadets, highlighting the lessons of the day. Today's exercise demonstrates that strength alone does not guarantee success. Adaptability, creativity, and teamwork are just as important. Cadet Kieran exemplified these qualities, showing that even a human can match and at times surpass the skills of the most elite cadets. The Valkyrie girls, standing together, exchanged glances. Their expressions reflected a new understanding. Kieran was no longer just the human boy who had entered their class. He was a cadet, a teammate, and someone whose courage and ingenuity could influence outcomes in ways they had never imagined. Later, as Kieran returned to his room, he felt a sense of peace. The journey had been challenging, but he had grown stronger, more confident, and more certain of his place in the galaxy. He unpacked his gear, checking each piece carefully, preparing for the challenges that lay ahead. Lyra knocked on his door. You've made quite an impression, she said with a grin. Even Seraphine can't deny it anymore. Kieran chuckled. I just try to do what humans do best, think on our feet, adapt, and keep a positive outlook. Lyra shook her head, laughing. It's impressive. I think we'll see great things from you. Kieran smiled, feeling warmth in the praise. He had arrived as the first human in the Valkyrie class, uncertain and nervous, but he would leave each day stronger, wiser, and more capable. Later, as he stood on the balcony under the starlit sky, Kieran reflected on everything that had happened. The challenges had been real, the dangers simulated, and the lessons invaluable. He realized that humanity's strength was not just in raw power, but in courage, creativity, and the willingness to face the unknown with optimism. Seraphine joined him quietly, looking out at the city lights. You've exceeded expectations, she said softly. Humans, you're unpredictable, unrelenting, and capable of greatness. Kieran grinned. I'm just getting started. For a moment, there was silence, the kind that comes with mutual respect and understanding. Kieran felt a sense of belonging. He had faced one of the most dangerous classes in the galaxy, and he had done more than survive. He had thrived, earned respect, and proven that humans could shine even in the face of elite, experienced warriors. The stars above Nova Prime stretched endlessly, a reminder of the vast galaxy that awaited. Kieran knew that bigger challenges lay ahead, missions that would push him even further, and obstacles that would test every skill, every ounce of courage he possessed. But he was ready. With a deep breath, he turned back to the dormitory, a confident smile on his face. He had entered the Valkyrie class as a human boy, uncertain and underestimated. But he had left the day stronger, wiser, and respected. And he knew, without a doubt, that this was only the beginning of a remarkable journey, a journey where human ingenuity, courage, and resilience could shape the galaxy in ways no one had yet imagined. Kieran's smile stayed with him as he settled in for the night. Tomorrow, he would face new challenges, meet new allies, and continue to prove that humans small, adaptable, and bold could stand among the galaxy's finest. For Kieran, the most dangerous class in the galaxy was no longer a threat. It was an opportunity, and he would seize it, one brilliant, daring, unpredictable step at a time.